business owners likely will have only one shot to sell a business. Most don't understand what drives value and how buyers look at a business. Until now. Welcome to the How to Sell a Business podcast, where every week we talk to the subject matter experts, advisors, and those around the deal table about how to sell at maximum value. Every business will go to sell one day. It's only a matter of when. We're glad you're here. The podcast starts now.
On today's episode, I had the opportunity to visit with Tamer Shoukry. And Tamer is a business broker out of Ohio, and his claim to fame is Mr. Wireless. And the funny thing that I didn't realize, and it's funny, during our interview, I was thinking I was talking about wireless stores. And what I didn't realize is just how deep that business goes. And what I'm saying is the resale market. I didn't realize, I'm thinking we're talking about new cell phone sales and products and services, but it was so much more than that. So it was a fascinating interview, and I'm certain that you will sit there and never look at another wireless store without going, wow, I had no idea. So my point is, it's a good one. And so I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Tamer Shoukry. I'm your host, Ed Mysogland. On this podcast, I interview buyers, sellers, deal makers, and other professional advisors about what creates value in a business, and then how can that business be effectively sold for a premium value. On today's show, like I indicated in my introduction, I'm really excited about Tamer Shoukry of who's known as Mr. Wireless, and so you can imagine, to get that moniker, that is a real special person. And this industry is not quite what you might think. You think of it as a retail operation, but it really is so much more than that. So, Tamer, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Ed. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate that.
Well, I didn't do your practice justice. So I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit about the work that you're doing, and just your practice and where your specialty.
Awesome. Well, in 2006, I started working for this nationwide distributor for wireless products, and basically what they did, they made me travel city to city, state to state, especially Indiana, to sell their product, which was Boost Mobile and Page Plus. And I had to go and flourish the markets. The market would not be familiar with these products, so I would move in. I will spend weeks there until everybody starts selling this product. Other retailers will start pushing the products. And that gave me a very, very strong stronghold when it comes to networking with small business owners who own retail shops, corner shops, gas stations, all these mom and shop businesses and bigger size retailers, to introduce the products to them. I spent 3 years there, and then I decided to start my own distribution company. That was in 2009. I became the master dealer for Boost Mobile and number one distributor in the Midwest. So we grew up from there, and then I started selling devices in bulk to small carriers. So smaller carriers will buy 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 devices per month. So I focused on this side of the business. Later on in 2012, I started the first repair store in my area in Dublin, Hilliard, Ohio. And after 1 year, I started a cell phone repair school in Houston, Texas. And after that, I came back to Ohio. After 3 years, I came back to Ohio, and I started a little wireless software company that serves cell phone stores. So I have a very good existence in the wireless industry in the country and overseas.
I would say. So I guess the first place I would want to start, and I know this is a big ask, but what's the overview of the industry? Because like we were talking about before we got started, I mean, it's not necessarily what everybody thinks, that it's just a retail operation. So can you kind of give me a little bit of an overview on that?
Sure. Yeah. The cell phone service or the telecom service is part of the infrastructure of any country, and everybody's
Okay.
using the service. Any business, any field, medical, industrial, science, education. Everybody's using the wireless industry, and when it comes like this, you find yourself in a situation there's always high demand on these kind of services, and there's not enough people providing the service. Uh, you can imagine.
Now, how is that? How is that true? I mean, how does that work? That there's not enough. What you were saying was that there's not enough people providing the service. I mean, what
Well,
does that mean?
if you look at the country here, we have mainly like three, four major carriers.
Uh huh.
You know them, and they're providing the airtime. And then you have the dealers or retailers who are working under them providing the service. And then you
Okay.
have the repair shops that do repairs for the devices when they have any problems or issues. And then
I
you
get it.
have companies that producing the devices, Apple, Samsung, whatever.
I
So
I
there
get
is
it.
there is always high demand, and there is not enough devices. I don't think there's enough devices in the market.
Really?
Yes.
Huh? I'll be dipped. That was what caught my ear. I'm like, wow, there's not enough devices in the market. That seems that's a and as large as this market is, that's a staggering statement. But you would know. So okay, so we have the market now, and I guess what when you think of a wireless operation, you because you, in when you were talking a little bit about your practice, you were not only talking about retail operations, but you were also talking about in truck stops, gas stations, things like that, where those are respective profit centers. So I mean, how does tell me the what does that look like? The mechanics of that. I know from a retail store, but does the retail store then go and sell to the truck stop, or is there some other operation that has the cornerstone on the that type of business? You know what I mean?
Very, very good question, because this industry is not stable. It's changing every other year. It's changing dramatically. So back in the days when I
Right.
started, we used to sell corner stores. We used to sell in barber shops. We used
Sure.
to sell the device activated already with airtime. So you just turn on the phone and it has minutes and you can start talking and texting. But now all these venues start shrinking, but we have something newer. We have the repair shops. The repair shop will
Sure.
be, independent, will be providing services like fixing devices, activating new lines, and doing more than that. Becoming with the high price of the devices now, it become more like a car dealership. And
Oh
this is
wow.
the real
Okay.
in the business when you're buy broken phones, fix them, and resell them. Huge margin. It's more than anything you can imagine.
So now I'm following you. So where do you sell the repaired phones? Is that do you now turn online, or are you getting foot traffic? Where is the source of that profit center?
Okay, perfect. So if somebody who owns a store, usually the customer will walk into the store and they will ask, "Do you have any, affordable iPhone?" For example, I do want to pay the
Okay.
full price. I said, "Okay, I have this model, I have that model." It usually sometimes will be like 30% off, 50% off from buying a brand new one. So he would sell these, or he would sell them online, or he would export all the devices overseas for higher margin.
I get it.
So it's
So how do you? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so you have some company that is selling, let's say, 100 phones a month, and some other company selling 20,000, 50,000 phones a month. You have this size, and you have that bigger size.
Sure. So who is? I mean, what's a good size as far as revenue goes? What's a reasonable operation? I mean, is that a $500,000 revenue store? Is that a $5 million revenue store?
Usually, the retail shops will range between 50 independent one, the repair shops. They would be between 50 to mil. Some of them can reach mil, especially if you're in a busy city like New York. You can reach this number.
Yeah.
The other bigger size companies, they do not do retail. They do not face the end user. They would collect the devices, repair them, and then send them overseas for higher prices. And that
So
margin will go up to 300, 400, 500 million dollars.
wow. So where do the retail operations, so the companies you just referenced, the ones that are buying up the damaged and subsequently repaired phones, they're going around to all these shops saying, "Hey, I want to buy your damaged phones." They refurb them and then sell them, right? That's how that works.
This is one of the venues they do this, and
Okay.
the other ways they go directly to the carriers, because carriers will always
Oh,
those returns,
sure.
and they would buy it through an auction. And the auction is it's not for everyone. You need to get certain
No.
certifications, like the R2 certification, to be able to participate on those auctions.
So what's an R2 certification? What does that mean?
Responsible recycler certification is
Okay.
very similar
I
to
get
the
it.
ISO, but it comes to the electronics.
I got it. So how many, like, so I know I'm based here in Indianapolis, and so I know that there's there's all kinds of retail operations that are selling phones. So that's easy. But what about the folks that you just mentioned, the ones that are approved by the vendor to collect the phones? I mean, is that a big market? I mean, is there 5 people or 50 people that are buying up these phones?
No, it's, I would say the certified companies would be around maybe 30 certified.
Okay.
It's not a big number. I can tell you the names of the owners of each company very easy, because they don't change
Sure.
that much. They don't go out of business
Yeah.
that quickly. And I'd never seen any one of them, of those companies dealing with the headsets on the large scale, getting sold. I never seen that, except
Yeah. Well, at those kind of margins, I'd hold them too. I
yeah,
wouldn't sell it.
there's only few companies that are like the biggest companies. They're going with billions of dollars. They got sold to private equities and
Sure.
entities like that. So as I wanted to mention to you, it's not only the small shop in front of you that one guy is working there. No, it goes way beyond that.
Sure. That no. That's where I was going with it. Is that it seems as though that's the entry point, but it just broadens out from there, and there is all kinds of money after just the retail side of the business.
Yes, and there is
So
also the companies that doing special type of software, companies doing finance technologies, and these guys
oh
are
sure.
way beyond your imagination.
Well, circling back to the retail, I've always wanted to know how they make money. I mean, I know we've been focusing on, look, we're taking, damaged phones and we're reselling them. Okay, so that's a little bit of a profit center, but it would appear that the real profit is the guy that's buying it, not necessarily the guy that's selling the damaged phone. So they're getting a little bit of a hit, but it's downstream that they're making all the money. So when I look at the retail operation, where are my profit centers? I know probably, cases and things like that, but where else? Where
I,
am I?
okay,
Where am I looking at?
go to this. So when you go and you pay your bill, the monthly bill, this is a profit. This is profit. You get a margin. You get a small percentage, but by the time you will have more people come to your store and doing the payments that can pay your rent. For example, it can be like $2,000, $3,000. When you are doing the repairs, you charge at least $50 up to $100 per device. So there's another thing. The accessories is another thing. You make in the accessories, usually you can make up to 10 times your cost. So you buy a charger
Really?
for $2 and you sell it for $20.
Wow.
You buy
Okay.
a case for $5 and you sell it for $25, for example.
Yeah. Okay. So the locations, the ones that I see, like when I'm looking at these locations here in Indianapolis, it seems as though I don't want to say they're in the lower income, but it does appear that there's a concentration in some of our in some of our lower income communities. I mean, we like, there conversely where you would see like a Verizon not necessarily down in in those same areas. Is that true or no?
Yes, yes. Usually, the lower income areas where you make most of the money, and it's funny that you mentioned Indiana because Indiana is very close to my heart. I started my career in Indiana. I consider Indiana as my school to understand the cell phone industry. And every
Nice.
city will have this one store that everybody likes to go there. And you had one like
Okay.
this in the east side of Indy, and the store was amazing. People just generation after generation, this is the spot. Everybody wants to go there. It's not the
Right.
nicest part of the town, but you know what? Everybody just
Uh,
go there.
Great service.
Um,
No, I know what you're talking about.
yeah, but when it comes to the stores owned by the carriers, they usually go
Uh-huh.
for the nicer areas. They usually go for prime locations, and the individuals do not like to open next to them because you cannot compete with the carrier. The carrier can
Yeah.
hire the best executives, nicest looking
Right.
salespeople, the best devices. It's not going to affect them. But if
Yeah.
you're an individual business owner, you're trying to, you cannot compete. You cannot compete. You want to be integrating with that company.
Well, that was where I was heading next. Is like how does a company like this compete when you're looking at online? You're looking at Best Buy. You're looking at where else can you activate?
Amazon,
In some it's
eBay.
yeah in some of the bigger box store. How does the mom and pop shop compete against something like that?
I'm gonna tell you a fact. It's funny. People, when you go to the one of the big boxes, you don't get the service. You can grab the device, but no one is gonna talk to you about it. No gonna one is gonna explain the plan. No one is gonna tell you this is the most suitable plan for you. And if you have a problem, guess what? Nobody's gonna be able to answer your question. This is why they
Right.
go to the repair shop to do the activation,
Sure,
to ask questions, and fix problems.
I
And the
got
same
it.
thing goes to
Um,
the bigger carriers. They don't have this technicality to sort issues with the device itself.
Yeah, I follow that, and I think one of the biggest challenges that I see, and we've tinkered around with a couple of them, has to do with repair, and I know you alluded to this just a minute ago that there was that there's a lot of profit baked into the repairs, and so I have some children that have broken phones and iPads and so on and so forth. So I am well aware of the cost to repair it. But one of the things that we continue to see is the difficulty in finding and then retaining help, especially with that. It's what you can. I think it's fairly you can be easily trained on selling and understanding the product and the needs of the consumer, but a technician, that's a different animal. So how do I find them? How do I retain them?
When it comes to technicians, this is the rarest type of employee you can ever find. Very hard.
No, I'm with you.
And usually, if I'm new in town, I don't know everybody in town already. I would go to Google them, and they said phone repair, and these guys,
Yeah.
they will spend a lot of money just advertising online. So when it comes to Google Map, MapQuest, whatever, it will show you he's there. He's there. You always there is no single town, big town in the whole country without 2, 3, 5 stores doing repairs now. If you ask
Sure.
me
No.
back when I started my first store, I was the only one in my whole town in Dublin and Hilliard area. So now it's different. They're
Well,
treating it very well. Yeah.
yeah. Well, and now you've got the major repair franchises, cell phone repair, and I think there's two or
CPR.
three others. CPR.
Yeah, it's funny because these guys, they are not franchise really. It's something. It's something I don't know how to explain it. The company used to be a franchise. CPR used to be a franchise,
Right.
and then they went to every individual store, and they convinced them to change their sign and become under them. So
Really?
it's Mike Repair, and everybody likes Mike. They will come to you and tell you, "Come join us. You will have certain kinds of benefits." And
I get it.
I know the guy who started the CPR. He's a friend of mine. I can say that. But when the company got sold a couple times, now corporate is really separated from the store owners.
Sure.
So
No, it happens.
I can call it franchise, really.
Yeah. No. I get it. So, but circling back to the retention of the technician, I mean, is that just an economic thing, or is there any other way to induce that type of person to stay with the company? Because if I'm looking at it as a buyer, I'm sitting here going, all right, that I got to figure out how I'm going to keep this guy, because just what you just said is that the other shops are looking for a repair guy, and my guy probably has a target on his back. You know what I mean?
True. This is a very important point, and from my experience, the best thing is to be generous to your technician, and you always have to have 2 or 3 of them. You can't just depend on one.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Once you have one technician, you hire somebody to be trained under him, just in case something happened. He got sick, he had to travel, he got married, he got divorced, whatever. You always have a backup. You always have a backup. Somebody will get in and finish all the repairs. When I had my store, I had 3. I had 3 all the time. So because if somebody got sick, we get heavy loads of repairs coming in. I'm always have enough people to do the repairs.
I get you. So moving to financials. So are there various metrics or benchmarks that I could say, if I have a 10% net profit margin, I'm doing great. If I have a 50% gross profit margin, I'm doing great. Are there any ways to quickly look at a business and say, yeah, you know what, that's a good target for me?
I would usually go and see how many repairs they do per month. I would see how many phones they sell per month. From my side, from my experience, I prefer the stores that sells more devices than the stores that repair more devices, because the biggest goal for you is to have the biggest sales. You need to sell more devices.
Sure.
So it's okay. You can do repairs, but you cannot focus on repairs only and neglect selling. So I would like always to go to the store that's selling the most devices in the whole area. You sell 100, I know exactly how much money you're making, because I would know he
Well,
would at least making $50 to $100. So if you sell 100, that's $5,000. 100, yeah, $5,000. You sell more, you make more money. The rent shouldn't be more than $2,000 under any circumstances. Some guys they will go with more, but it will be always a big risk.
I get it. So from when we look at, I guess what I'm the as it relates financially, is this, most people need their cell phone. My question originally was centered around, is the industry correlated to disposable income? And I think just from our conversation thus far, I can tell, that's probably not the case. There is no correlation to any part of the economy because people are going to need some means to communicate, right?
Yes, this is 100% true. And nowadays, with a device costing you up to $2,000, uh, it's not only people who do not have money they go and fix the phones. I had a lawyer who used to damage his small tablet all the time and come and spend $300 because all the documents that he has on these tablets. He can buy
Oh, sure.
brand
No,
new
I
every time. Every day he can buy brand new.
can.
But with the documents he has there, and it's worth his life. His career is only in this small device. He will come and spend $300 to fix it.
Sure. So one of the things that one of the challenges that I continue to see is, this business as well as a business that is dealing with repairs as well as retail of new, and that's inventory management. I gotta imagine that it is a real challenge in this industry, isn't it, to keep track of your inventory, or is there like a universal point of sale type inventory management service, or no?
There are. It would work for smaller shops, and there is
I get it.
software for wholesalers. But from the bottom of my mind, there is no real solution until today. I'm not saying this to bash the companies that designed those
No.
software, but you can do better than this. It can be more in details than what we have now. You can use QuickBooks like any other business, but when it comes to tracking your inventory, there is some software being used now, but I am not satisfied with this
I get it.
with the results. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. So who buys these things? I mean, there, because I know you've sold a lot of them, and I'm just kind of curious to know, what does that person look like, and or does it vary?
It varies. You can be a mom, you can be a dad, you can be a teacher, you can be a
Really?
school, you can be a government agency, you can be individual who's sending these devices, selling overseas. So it's really everybody's buying,
Really?
but who's buying more? You can ask me who's buying more, and I would
Right.
I would
I,
I would answer the question honestly. If you have any market with lots of immigrants, they would buy these
uh-huh.
devices more than anybody else because their relatives back home in their countries, they're gonna ask them, we need devices, we need iPhones, we need Samsung, we need this, and there is
I get
no
it.
place in the whole earth is cheaper than the US when it comes to devices. So the demand is
Okay.
crazy high.
I get it. That's interesting. Um. So I mean, do multiples vary in this? Market multiples. Do they vary in the industry, or are they? Is it stay fairly consistent? Because
No,
I gotta imagine that the risk remains the same. So I would assume the multiple's fairly consistent, or no?
I would say It's different between cities because if you're in New York,
Oh, okay.
it's not the same thing. If
Sure.
you are in
Yeah.
Kansas or Arkansas, you have less people,
Hmm.
so your ability to sell devices is less than
Uh,
if you are in a bigger city.
So multiples increase based on the density of the population
Of
in
course,
the area. I get it.
of course.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So as we talk about selling these things, I mean, is it a normal lending environment? I mean, it's just based on cash flow and it works, or do is there something? Is there a special way that these things get financed? Given the inventory fluctuations and such, I would assume it's just like any other business. If it can support the cash flow, you're in business. Or
Well,
is that
I
not the
I
case?
would say the biggest chunk of the business done cash, upfront, but newly, and I was involved one of those companies that provides a tool for financing for the independent store owners. So
Nice.
the software will go and check the background of the person who's buying the device. It will give you colors. Red, don't give him the device. Yeah,
Got it.
it's up to you. And green, go ahead and you can sell him. You can trust him. He has a good credit
Credit rating.
background, and he has the ability financially to give you the payment over every week, $50, $20, whatever you agree on. But I would say the cash is the biggest chunk of what's happening here. Everybody just go and pay upfront. The
I get it.
financing comes
Okay.
from the bigger companies. If you go and buy from Apple, the brand new expensive devices, they have their own financing and they make it easy.
Okay. But as far as buying the company, I mean, is it just like any other SBA lender, or
Oh,
because yeah, you know what I mean. From that standpoint, it seems that this is just based on cash flow. I would assume you're based on what we're talking about. I would imagine my cash flow to revenue ratio has to be 20-25%. That makes that's a 2.5, 3 multiple, which then takes me as I look at it, to a bank. I mean, that's plenty of cash flow to support some reasonable debt, right? Or is that, or do what I'm trying to establish is the risk associated with, if I'm a lender, where is my risk in loaning that money aside from the borrower, him or herself. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you something. When it comes to small businesses like individual stores, I never
Mm-hmm.
got any lender involved. Just usually cash. But when
Really?
we're talking about bigger companies, the multiple million
Yeah.
dollars, then it's a totally
Mm-hmm.
different story. It's a totally different story.
So, but if I come to in some of the lower income areas, who's buying? Or I guess you had already indicated that there the buyer pool tends to be
Competition.
immigrant. Yeah. So there is consolidation. So they understand it. But as individual buyers, if that's so seller financing. I guess we're looking at, because I'm sitting here going, all right, so let's just say it's $200,000. Would you risk $200,000 to buy this business that a lot of a lot of which is cash? You know what I mean? It's almost like a food and beverage business where you can't. And to me, this seems harder to track my cash. Or no?
True. This is why I mentioned that most of the buyers will be people from the industry itself. He can be somebody from
Mm-hmm.
outside this certain city or town,
Yeah.
or can be the guy next door who always wanted to eliminate the competition. He would say, "Okay, I'll buy it. I'll take this place," and usually it goes cash. They pay everything cash.
Okay.
If they have
You know what?
terms that between the buyer and seller, and I do not recommend that at all because the consequences might escalate to a direct
Sure.
you know
No, that's great advice. Like I said, I didn't anticipate that coming out of your mouth, but I mean it totally makes sense. So since we're bumping up on time, the last question I ask every single guest, and you being the expert in the industry, what's the one piece of advice that you would give, I guess, business owners in the wireless retail or the wireless industry? What piece of advice would you give them that would have the greatest impact on their value and their ability to sell?
Do not buy a business based on your emotions. Never.
Okay,
You have to always.
So that's the buyer.
Yes.
So what about the seller? So how's the seller? What does the seller need to do in order to make this business saleable?
Your business has more value than what you think. Your business has more value than you think.
So how do I get that out? Because I'm certain there's plenty of sellers that just heard that and say, "Tell me more. How do I get more money out of my business?"
Hire a broker like me, and
Okay.
I will go to your finances, and I will make sure to represent your business in a better way than if you try to represent by yourself.
Okay.
Based on numbers, facts.
Yeah, I got it. So the quality of your financial statements, even though you've got a bunch of cash that is flowing in and out of the business, that will determine whether or not you're going to be able to sell at a premium value.
Yes.
Perfect. So Tamer, what's the best way we can connect with you, and how can people find you?
You can search my name on Google, or you can find me on Facebook at Tamer Shoukry. You can find me on Instagram as Cellphone in Bulk, or you can call me at 614-226-2723.
Okay. Well, Tamer, I got to tell you, I didn't know what to expect out of this. I've always wanted to talk. I've always seen it. I've always heard that the business was lucrative. I just had no idea that there was so much more to it than just a storefront. So thanks for the education. I'm certain everybody's kind of in the same camp with me of like, wow, what a crazy business. And boy, that might be a nice little business for me to buy. So thanks for coming on and telling us all about that.
You're welcome, Ed. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us today on the How to Sell Your Business podcast. If you want more episodes packed with strategies to help sell your business for the maximum value, visit howtosellabusinesspodcast.com for tips and best practices to make your exit life-changing. Better yet, subscribe now so you never miss future episodes. This program is copyrighted by Miso Inc. All rights reserved.